Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for another live stream, another monthly mega live stream, if you like, where we do another virtual tasting. Andrew Durbidge, our cellar master, joins us yet again. Thank you, Andrew.
Good to see you, Matt. You are looking very well, as always.
Thank you. You too looking, and always, Andrew always outdappers me. I'm merely in our society garb again, and he's got the full waistcoat and everything going on.
Well, mate, this is quality cheese tonight. It's not like we're having this isn't whiskey and craft singles. This is quality cheese. So I thought we had to dress up for it. So
this is quality. Yeah, we're here. This is whiskey and cheese, of course. I have sitting in front of me right now, I'm going to try not to spill anything, a whole board full of cheese ready to rumble tonight. And of course, I've got my glassware, and I recommend you grab. I'm mix and matching a bit of spirit and whiskey glass here because it's what's clean and what's on the desk. And we've got some great cheeses to pair with them. So thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Everyone except I think maybe two members who ordered this pack, who are Queensland members, I don't think have received them yet. We do apologize. Star Trek did go on strike this week. That was completely out of our control. But, you know, we are at the whim of delivery companies, as we've seen. You've probably seen that little notice at the bottom of our emails lately saying things are slow at the moment on Australia Post. So please take your time. We're going to bring the chat thread up as well as we go along tonight. I do recommend having these cheeses out of the fridge already for a while. Andrew, I think we've lost your camera feed, but we'll
you've deliberately lost it. There's some distractions here. I'll be putting it back on in just a moment. Don't panic.
You're right. Okay, all good. No technical difficulties here. Evening team, greetings from the far north. I'm glad, Darren, I hope your samples arrived because I know some Queenslanders that didn't arrive in time. Evening, gentlemen. Evening, all. Actually, Justin, I'm going to give you a shout out in a second. Always good to see the waistcoat AD. Yes, it's not a it's not a Coon and Craft night. No, or they call it Cheer and Craft, don't they now? Hello from Iona, and hello from Whiskey in Focus. So good to see so many people tuning in. being a part of Whiskey and Cheese tonight. This is so exciting. We've paired these up. We've worked closely with the Bruny Island Cheese and Beer and Cheese Company in delivering these packs to you. And the exciting part for us is that there's a lot of cheese in these packs, and there's a lot to share around. So if someone at home you want to share it with, please do so. This cheese should last you a few days if it's on your own, though. Darren says he's arrived at 18 hours after they left Slobart. Lucky for us. Don't let the Hobartians hear that one. And hello from Annalisa. Good to see the Contosses as always. It is Whiskey and Cheese night tonight. Let's press on. I'm going to bring up our big screen here, and Andrew and I can be the little bobbling heads at the bottom for a second. There's your pack, of course. Like I said, you should have had that already. Your cheese pack would have arrived separately. I'm going to shout out to Whiskey in Isolation. If you've got some cool photos of your lineup tonight, of your setup, please post them. Tag us on Instagram at SMWS_AUS, or post them to our Facebook group, our community of members that like to share in these experiences. Look at that photo. That was taken like an hour ago. So big shout out to Whiskey in Isolation. That's a cool little setup he's got going on there. So if you've got some cool photos to share, please pop them in the group, and we'll get cracking into it straight away. The one whiskey tonight that we're not pairing with any particular cheese, but we're almost treating as like a palate refresher, a good place to start, something light and delicate, something, young and sprightly, I should properly say, is a Source of Fascination, which is 28.52. Andrew and I are going to have a pour of that now. So that's the first dram you want to pour. Just going to bring that up on screen, which we've got. Bam, bam, bam. Yep, that's the one. There's our caption. So pour a bit of that. That's almost to start us off tonight. That's before we dig into the cheeses. That's to sort of calibrate our palates. We've got 4 cheeses and 5 whiskeys. That's the way it worked out. The cheese is ready when it's ready, and we ended up going with the 4, but a bigger portion of each, if you like, rather than a 5th one, which wasn't quite ready. But I won't go too much into that right now. That's the Distillery 28, CASK 52 in our young and sprightly flavor profile. I did a video just last week. I was actually just telling Andrew about it just last week on what I like to call sleeper codes on these distillery codes and often flavor profiles that people overlook because they might not be as sexy, or they're not as sherried, or they're not as sort of cool numbers. These are those kind of whiskeys that I think are proper sleepers in an outturn. Definitely quite a zingy nose on that first dram.
Oh, it's funny. You said zingy. I was the word that was going around in my mind was zesty. So we're on the same page.
Yeah, we're on the Zs, yeah. Maybe it's
sorry, Matt. I'm mucking around with my phone here just off to the side because the Facebook have changed the setting now, and then the live chat doesn't come up on the phone, so I can't see people's comments as they put them in. I mean, they appear, but they disappear. So.
That's okay. We'll keep coming up on the screen. There's Justin's
comments. Yeah, we'll just look at what comes up on the screen.
Even you're getting excited.
That is very, very tasty. Aromatic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is aromatic. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack on that nose. It's far more, I'd almost go to say it's far more savory than I was expecting in some ways. Not uncommon with this distillate, though. Not uncommon with this distillate. It can be sometimes quite savory, almost. I've even said the word chalky before, but not in a bad way. Like almost like a dusty chalkboard with a bit of almost a bit of sea salt on that nose as well.
See, that's a great call, definitely with the sea salt. And I think the other interesting thing is that it's only 8 years old, and yet it's actually got a fair bit of development and complexity in it too. Now, first of all, bourbon barrel, so you're getting obviously the oak driving things from the front seat, which is good. Yeah, Darren, thank you for your note there. I was observing that. They used to stay up permanently. I don't know why they're disappearing off the side now, but anyway.
Oh, yeah, they do that left to right swipe thing now with the comments on Facebook. On live videos, I think you can swipe your screen left or right or something, and it goes back into the comment mode or something.
No, Darren's correct. The comments appear, then they go off, and you've got to drag them up again. But anyway, matters not. Hey, that is a good good choice for a welcome dram. That's fantastic, isn't it?
Someone said here, I'm already on the crackers. It's great with the crackers. Yes, there are a box of Lavoche crackers inside your cheese pack as well, so I might try that with one of the crackers.
That's funny with me. Every time I've done a whiskey and cheese tasting, I I always give the crackers a miss. For me, it's a bit of an extra flavour. What's the word? It disguises some things. You know, you're here to taste the whiskey. You've got the cheese as well. The moment you add the cracker, it's just another little element that for me personally, I find then cuts through what I'm trying to look for in the cheese and the whiskey match. So I give it a miss, but that's just me personally.
Fair enough.
You could just as easily have the argument about whether we should be adding water to whiskey, and that's very personal and subjective. So who am I to?
Yeah. Well, you do your thing, kind of thing. I have added a few drops of water to this one, and it doesn't mute it at all. In fact, it brings it lifts it slightly.
Yeah, sorry, Justin. Not a popular opinion, Justin. I realise I'm a purist, but anyway.
Cheese now removed from crackers. Yes, if you've already pre-cheesed your crackers, you may want to certainly remove one of them from here on in. Karen asks, any wine recommendations for us non-whiskey drinkers? Karen, I'm not a huge wine drinker, but I will say you probably want to err on the side of the lighter varietals for this. For tonight, I would say more on sort of the Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir sort of realm of reds and whites. There's nothing too heavy in terms of the cheese selection until we get right near the end, where it's a bit of a curveball. Lovely stuff.
Wow.
What can I say about Distillery 28?
Starts
with a T, and it's one of those distilleries that try to do everything in one room kind of feel about it, like the mash tuns and the stills and everything else all sort of tightly compacted into one room.
It is without a doubt one of the most difficult distilleries to take a decent photo in, because there is not one position where you can actually capture all of the stills, or certainly from a landscape shot. No matter where you stand, you work around. If you want to get the spirit safe as well, where you can't get the stills in it, if you want to get the other items, it's you're right, as you rightly say, Matt. Everything is just jam packed into this one little space.
And it was quite grimy as well.
Yeah,
like it's very much a working distillery, if that makes sense.
Oh, it is, and it's tucked away in that little neck of the woods. In the Perthshire region, well short of Pitlochry, so I kind of get skipped. Everyone who's on the Tartan bus tours goes straight from Edinburgh up to Pitlochry, and they miss this one on the way. So it doesn't have a massive tourist trade, even though the visitor centre is quite nice. But I was there in 2009, so a while ago now, and yeah, it was certainly a very grimy, dusty, dirty place. And that's not a criticism. It's, as you say, we lose sight of the fact that distilleries are just glorified factories for producing alcohol. It's a factory, so it's not necessarily their job to look pretty.
I think you calling the visitor centre there quite nice is the nicest thing that's ever been said about that visitor centre, actually. So John Latanzio says, I'm enjoying a Pinot Gris between each whiskey. I think you're setting yourself up for a big night there, John. All the Karen says we have some of them in the fridge. There we go. And extra rooms cost money. That's true. Yeah, it's all about economies. Actually, great comment here. Love the square bottles, by the way. Actually, I'm always keen to hear that kind of feedback from members, because especially between Susie and myself, we're looking at always how we can shape the experience and shape what the packaging even looks like. And it is true. We are trying to make the packaging as environmentally friendly as possible, as well as you've seen, with the cardboard the paper wrap around the bottles instead of plastic and things like that. The only thing that's not completely recyclable in these packs are the caps on the bottles. But everything else is pretty good to go. So, but we always like to hear what people think of them. And the square bottles are a little bit easier to read, I think, in terms of seeing the casks and seeing the details, which works for us. So if you like it, we like it. So we'll keep.
The other fantastic thing, Matt, is that you can take these to work, and they just look like you've got a little aftershave bottle in your desk. In fact, you've got a sample at work. So well done.
And when a colleague says to you, "What's that?" you say, "Oh, it's aftershave 28.52." We have a whole coding system for my aftershaves.
This is Ode malt. Yeah.
And yes, The bottles are great, very easy to open. No finger tearing getting them open. Yeah. Well, look, I mean, it's always a bit of a see how we go sort of moment, isn't it? Shall we press on and actually dig into some of these cheeses? Grab your cheese knife, grab your cheeses, and let's do some pairings. This is exciting. Okay, moving on to the next one. Here we go. 115.22 with raw milk C2. So it's one of the hard cheeses in your pack there.
This whiskey was related to Desmond, wasn't it?
Desmond.
Well, this was 115.22.
Damn.
So that's the obligatory. Hey, don't worry, it's the obligatory dad joke. It's out of the way now. We can put it behind us. It's done.
Now I've only got a half sample of this. I've only got a half sample of each of these because I used half of them for some of these pairings. But I'm going to pull the rest of that out now. 115.22. This is a premium release. This is a release that I think I saw some members talking about being a bit of a sort of almost an unknown in a recent outturn. I think this was October outturn. This release, it's a 28-year-old. We're jumping right to the sort of the top end of the age statements here straight away. Whilst our palates are fresh, and it just so happens to pair really nicely with this with what was going to be the first cheese, the raw milk C2. So tear off a bit of that C2, grab a bit of your whiskey, have a nose and a taste of each. This one was sort of paired up for this reason because the raw milk C2 from Bruny Island is quite, it's very subtle in flavor. It's not one of those overpowering, sort of stinky breeze or camemberts or blue cheeses. It's very much a light and, I guess, quite unique profile, but very nuanced. Just like what happens with whiskey when it gets to sort of this age here, where we're sort of into that realm of where it starts to become quite, for lack of a better phrase, very sort of soft, nuanced, and complex without being overbearing. So the cheese in this case didn't overwhelm the spirit. The spirit didn't overwhelm the cheese. They sat really nicely. Very subtle complexity to both there.
This cheese has a very appealing, tantalizing, for want of a very simplistic term, saltiness to it. That is wonderful.
So this is not a distillery code we see too often. And it's the 22nd cask we've seen in nearly 40 years of the society. So that's a hit rate of 1 every 2 years or so.
I have to say, Matt, it is a fantastic distillery to visit. It really, very, very old school, very traditional. If you really want to see how they were making whiskey 60, 70, 80 years ago, go to this distillery. It is sadly kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's not really Speyside. It's not really the Eastern Highlands. It's kind of tucked right off to the side there, up in the top right, and well off the beaten track. But yeah, well worth your time.
Hugely
underrated. That's a great match, Matt. I reckon those two have complemented each other very nicely.
I think that one works. The cheesemaker and we worked quite closely with the cheesemaker on all of these, and I think that one also works really nicely.
That's a stonking whiskey, by the way. I think once you've had the cheese, you've got the texture in your mouth. You go back to the malt. We've done it. It's that 1 + 1 = 3. The two have actually combined and added to one another.
Rob asks, what do you recommend starting with, whiskey or cheese? Either or. I think starting with, I like to do like we did with the chocolate pairings, maybe a small taste of the cheese, then a sip of the whiskey, then come back to the cheese, and also, or vice versa, have a sip of the whiskey, then have a sip of the taste of the cheese, and then come back to the whiskey. Sort of, I always like to alternate it a bit like that to see how the textural differences change as you've had a piece of cheese or had a sip of your whiskey.
Yeah, I confess I'm the total opposite. I will always defer to the whiskey first, come to know the whiskey, know what it's about, then have the cheese, try the two together, go back to the whiskey and see where the whiskey's gone. And I confess, I guess that's being a disciple of our friend Franz Schurer and his methodology and philosophy for matching food to whiskey. But again, whatever works for you. There are no rules here.
This is actually a cheese that Bruny Island say is the one that they are most proud of. It's the first raw milk cheese ever made in Australia back in 2009, and it's unpasteurized, and they say it's the purest expression of their craft. And I think it sort of sits nicely with this older whiskey because it is quite it's got that nuance to it. It doesn't have too much in the way of aromatics messing around with it.
I had forgotten that, but you're quite right. There was a time until recently when raw milk and unpasteurized cheese was more or less, for want of a better word, illegal in Australia. Yeah.
And even trying to find things like unpasteurized milk, even it was also not a thing.
It's the fastest thing on earth, that sort of milk. It's pasteurized before you see it. Ha! Dad joke number 2.
Oh, boom.
I'll tell you the sad thing is I did not prepare for this. These are off the cuff.
Matt Hurd says, getting some sound issues with Andrew. Is it just us? I don't know. Is everyone else can hear Andrew? Okay, I can. I just assume everyone else can.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Coming through loud and clear. There we go.
I can move the microphone a little closer.
The creamy mouthfeel for the dram matches the light bite of the cheese beautifully. And that cheese is lovely. And John Latanzio asks, who decides the pairing? How does the procedure work? John, in that case, it was myself and the cheesemaker. And just finding out what flavors would work best, picking out some casks, trial and error, tasting, pairing, and going from there. And finding that they would what would match up, what wouldn't. And there's a reason. That's why there's a reason why there's no peated whiskey in this lineup. We did have a peated whiskey to begin with, didn't really work. So we just changed the lineup again, went back to this one, and that's where we ended up. Yeah.
Certainly, I've been involved with a lot of cheese and whiskey tastings, and there's almost the default. Oh, we've got a peated whiskey, we better pair it with a blue, and you see the blue cheese and the like with the peat, and it's almost cliche now. And I'm actually delighted that either we're moving away from that and trying different matches, or just actually skipping the peat altogether.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is true, though. It's cliched to say that you need to have a big peated whiskey with the blue vein at the end of a cheese lineup. I think that's a bit sort of overkill.
Yeah.
In the words of Brian, blessed are the cheesemakers. There we go.
I was going to say that to the third dram, so someone's beaten me to it. But anyway.
So yeah, you're talking about this distillery a bit, Andrew. I did actually have a photo prepared. I think it's a hugely underrated malt. And I think the story of it, how it was basically the distillery that propelled DCL into malt whiskey. It was sort of that background of their first malt distillery, post sort of their grain conglomeration. It's kind of fun. They've got a really interesting story, really interesting history, and it's an old worldy kind of distillery that make great whiskey, like as we can see here from a 28-year-old.
Those warehouses you see in the front of that, the foreground of that photograph are actually reasonably new. Everything else behind, well, part of the original distillery goes way back to 18 whenever. You can see the obligatory 1960s edition in the background there with the whitewash stuff. But yeah, those warehouses right in front. I'll upload this to the Society's Facebook page later, but those are actually stained glass windows in the front of those warehouses there. And when you go to the other end and the sun comes around, you see the sun coming in through the stained glass windows, and it's a beautiful thing. So I took a couple of photos of that. I'll share that with the group later on.
Awesome. Shall we press on?
We shall.
Now, of course, you can do these pairings in your own time at home. You can, I guess, pause. You can pause a live stream, but you sort of miss out on someone live then. You'd have to go back. So don't pause. But we'll press on, and you might want to pour the next dram, which is 112.77 plus. This is going to pair with the George.
The George.
The George, yeah.
Incidentally, the George is the best in Scotland, in my opinion. Anyone who's been to Islay and passed through Inverary would have been to the George Inn. Amazing place for a pint or a dram on your way to Islay. I thoroughly recommend it. Now, I'll tell you what, the George had a very, very, very strong aroma when I was unpacking it and unwrapping it. And in fact, the whole room has now acclimatized to George. But I don't know if anyone else found that. Very, very strong aroma. I think the technical term is stinky cheese, is it not? That's
the official technical term. Yeah.
Yep.
So the George is a semi-hard cheese that we age, that has been aged for 5 months until the curd becomes super savory, and still moist, and very much a very deep flavor texture, as you've seen from opening it in the room. And very much for hard cheese lovers like this is probably up there as one of the best. But the pairing sort of came about with this one because the 112s, 122s, 135s, G9s, G15s, all the spirit that comes out of this distillery I often say is quite funky in nature, quite sort of like often get some of those like hay bales and like leather horse saddle kind of notes in some of the whiskeys out of the distillery. And I found those there was a little bit of that going on in the George. There was a bit of that sort of funky aromas, that curd, and it dances on the tongue, I think, is a good name for this whiskey. And I think that the cheese equally dances on the tongue. I've chosen probably the most industrial looking photo of the distillery I could find, just to share what it looks like from the inside. And it looks like a working distillery. Let's have a taste and sip of that.
Semi-hard is a very apt description, isn't it? It's the texture, and that is, it ain't soft, it ain't hard, it's semi-hard. When you get to my age, you get a lot of that.
I was waiting for that one. I just thought it was going to be in the comments instead.
I'm sure most viewers have worked it out by now, but my only job in co-hosting this with you, Matt, is to try and put you off your game. That's really why I'm here.
Yeah, if I hadn't worked that out by now. G'day, yeah. Mal. Or should I say, hello, everyone joining in late. Hi, Mal. Good to see you. Glad you could join in. And John says, as I said, the Greeno P goes beautifully between the different whiskies. I knew you were going to get written off on this, John. If you're pairing up wines and whiskies at the same time, it's all going to be Greeno Parisian whiskies at this point.
Do you know what? That is such a stunning match. And if you have the whiskey, then the cheese, and you go back to the whiskey now has this incredible tingly fruit note. It's almost sherbet-like, and it's a note that was not there previously. And it's almost taken the whiskey and just expanded that flavor spectrum. And there's so much more width and texture. Even the finish is now longer. That is an incredible match. Those two have really worked a treat together.
Oh.
And whoever said the more you drink, the softer it gets, that's true as well. No, I wasn't going there, but anyway.
Oh dear! What is this? What is this threat? What does this become?
What a fantastic cheese! What a fantastic whiskey! Matt. Would you agree? This would have to be the most. Not the most, but certainly one of the most underrated distilleries in Scotland. It just does the most incredible work that flies under the radar, or to be honest, just gets dismissed by a lot of whiskey snobs.
Absolutely. It gets dismissed by whiskey snobs. It flies under the radar. They have such a diversity of spirit and actually like trying interesting things, and young spirit, old spirit, different runs, different grains, different things happening. And it's overlooked because I think for two reasons. It doesn't have sort of a sexy profile. That the malt is they're readily available, so they don't have any sort of cult-like status. And I'm sorry to whoever brings it in these days, and whoever worked on this part of it, but the packaging is horrendous. It looks terrible on a shelf. It looks like something your dad would buy, back in the good old days. It looks like the kind of bottle design that sits next to a Chesterfield and. But I think it's one of those things that it's not a sexy whiskey, but it is. It really is. There's so much weird stuff going on at this place. And I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. It is often a little bit sort of weird and funky, some of their spirit. But
well, I remember certainly 10, 15 years ago, the bog standard garden variety expression of it that used to come in the blue bottle and the blue tube was you'd get that through the Woolworths chains for $45 a bottle. So they certainly weren't aiming high. But to be fair, at that time, it was I'm going to get this. Oh, please don't quote me. It was either the third or fourth highest selling whiskey in Germany at the time. That was their main market. So they were pushing someone's button somewhere.
Yeah. That's an unusual sort of sales stat to know that one. It's not like it was the first selling in Germany. You'd know that one maybe.
Well, I toured there in 2011 and met with their manager at the time, and he said that very proudly. That's why it's kind of stuck in my head a little bit. It was quite a thing for them.
I got to tour it in 2019, and it was very it was just lots of fun climbing up the different ladders and different sort of parts of and finding different bits of it. It was an operational day as well, so it was nice and noisy in there.
Yeah,
grain stills are not quiet machines.
One of the few distilleries to still have its own cooperage as well.
Yes. Along with the first whiskey we had though, the 28.52 still has a working cooperage on site as well as 112 does as well.
Oh, I can't get enough of that.
It's marvelous. That worked really well.
Both those have just shined. That's my whiskey of the night so far, my cheese of the night, and my match of the night. So it's got the trifecta, 3 from 3 so far.
That's lovely. Did you add any water to your whiskey? Did you try it?
I've not yet. No. In fact, I came to our stream so late and ill-prepared, I don't even have a little jug handy to pour with, so that's okay. Oh, it almost seems a shame to move on after that.
Yeah, that's going to be hard one to follow up. Almost. But we've got some cracking whiskies to head on to from here as well, though.
There's a great question from Darren there. Matt, would you care to answer that one?
Let me grab that one. Whose idea was the whiskey and cheese tasting, and how did Bruny get on board? The idea was sort of, I think, amongst the team, and we sort of spoke about it with I spoke about it with Susie. Susie sort of came up with it, and we sort of chatted about how that would look and how do you ship a cold good, and how do you ship perishable cold products in the mail, and how does that work, and who do we pair up with? And we spoke to quite a few cheesemakers actually. I knew Bruny Island Cheese and Beer Co. from visiting there a couple of times, and also just tasting their cheeses in the past and their beers. And just being really impressed with their product. And it just came down to that, like which cheesemaker are you really impressed with? That, if you're working with a cheesemaker where, the cows are on site and it's all part of the process, I think it's really exciting rather than there are lots of cheesemongers out there that can source in things and whatnot. But I think going with a single cheesemaker in this case was kind of fun because you could sort of mix and match a bit of what they had, what they're working on. And that was sort of the idea. And then just came the, quite honestly, the nerve-wracking amount of working at shipping cold goods, which we've never done before. But thankfully, Bruny Island were really good at it. And like I said, with the exception of 1 or 2 Queensland members where Star Trek have messed us up, everyone got it in time as well. So I hope I can see a lot of people watching along tonight, which is great. And of course, yes, Rob, big shout out to Susie. She's a champ. She absolutely is. And she hates it when I do this, but Susie, you're a legend. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for suggesting this, because Andrew and I and all our members get to enjoy it now as well. So
I think the other thing is the timing of this is perfect. And Sydney members, New South Wales members will know that, traditionally every second year or so, we actually did a cheese and whiskey tasting in Sydney for our members, co-hosted with the beautiful and wonderful, incredibly talented Alison, who would come along and just do the most amazing matchings and pairings. And we've been overdue for one of those for a while. Now, COVID hasn't helped, of course. So this has been very timely from that in that respect.
Yeah. And we've done quite a few cheese nights. We had 2 cheesemaker nights in 2018 in Sydney and 3 in 2019. 2 of those were in one Adelaide and one in Melbourne. But we've been doing cheese nights around the country, which has been a lot of fun. And being able to do one virtually means we can bring the cheeses and whiskies to you, and we can all enjoy them tonight. And John, good to see you still holding up there. Pinot Gris, good. We need a per dram update on each one as we go along here tonight, John. So thank you. shall we? Oh, look at this comment. Here we go. This has been my favorite tasting / pairing so far. Fab, says Matt Herdich. Good to see you, Herdo. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Let's shall we move on to the next one? I don't know, rush anyone along, but
I guess we shall.
Yeah. The next one tonight, I'm going to skip past this frame for a second. Here we are. There's the distillery again. 30.118, and we're going to pair it with the Saint that accidentally rhymes.
Now, this will be interesting, Matt. Distillery 30 and sherry casks don't always come out shining.
Why would you say that?
You know very well why I would say that.
Well, it is a distillery renowned for its sherry casks, though, for using sherry casks in their maturation.
And that's half the problem, isn't it? If you the more you expose yourself to sherry casks, the more likely you're going to get a tainted one every now and then.
Every now and then, that's true. Yes. I should also mention that those all three whiskeys that we've had, 4 whiskeys. Anyway, all the whiskeys we've had tonight are available on smws.com.au/shop, including this one, which has not previously been released. We've picked out a very small allocation and put it up online tonight. It went live, I think, at 7 o'clock. A very small number of bottles of this sherried 7-year-old from 30.118, Head in the Clouds. The tasting note on the front, because no one has seen this one before, does say chocolate-covered hazelnuts served with iced caramel, cloudy macchiato, followed by dark chocolate mousse and blue raspberry licorice wheels.
And I'm very pleased to say, Matt, it is a reasonably clean cask. There's no sulfur taint on that.
But definitely sherried. Definitely sherried there.
Yeah, and it's a second fill too, so it's a subtle influence. It's not dominating or overwhelming. Sorry, domineering, I should say.
Pears and honey is a good tasting note.
Yep. By the way, Dr. Akers, I should say, just made a reference earlier to it goes okay with the Bohemian Pills too, which is cruel because I'm hanging out for a beer right now. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, I think that's next. This is, I can't get over the nose. Like the nose for me is straight up Nutella. Like a
Nutella.
Like jar of Nutella, like chocolatey hazelnuts. Like it even says on the chocolate covered hazelnuts. I can't get past that. There's a Nutella nose on it, and I like that. We've ventured into something sweet here. The idea with this pairing, just for what we're playing along at home, was that we were that it was all about the sort of the richness of this sherry cask with the richness of the soft cheese, the Saint. So the Saint is a white mold cheese. This is not a brie. This is not a camembert. This is a Saint, as they should call it. It's rather complex. It's richly flavored. And it's very much a seasonal cheese for Bruny Island. You won't see too many of these throughout the year. But yeah, as longer you leave it out, the more pungent and stronger the flavors will come, which for a sherried whiskey that's 67% ABV, you'll want something that's quite pungent to cut through that absolutely monstrous proof.
You really needed echo and delay on that 67 then. 67, 7, 7, 7.
I almost spat that out on that coin. Yeah, I do. I need an echo button. 67, 7, 7. It's true, though. It's a big whiskey on the palate. It sits well at 67%. It's like
I tell you what, if I was doing this blind, and I will be soon, if I was doing this blind and you asked me to guess the strength, I would not have gone that high. I'd have been sitting at about 61, 62. It is a lot tamer than its strength.
Who's tried that with the cheese? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm moving on to that right now. Let me cut myself a slice.
Folks, Andrew's just busy cutting the cheese. And I'm done. Thank you so much for coming.
He's here all week. Try the veal.
Please try the fish. Yeah. I wouldn't have called 67% either. Yeah. I'm always like, I'll be honest with you, completely. Whenever I see a whiskey at that kind of proof, I am sometimes a bit skeptical. I sometimes go, oh, it's going to be way too hot. It's going to be really overly big. I'm going to agree with Andrew wholeheartedly here. It does not drink like 67%. It's very integrated. There's not a lick of sulfur in there. And it's for me, it is like those like chocolatey hazelnut and Nutella spread kind of notes going on the nose. and but still uniquely Distillery 30. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And interestingly, the hazelnuts eluded me for the first 30 seconds or so. I'm now in that territory, and I do agree with you on that Nutella note. And I think that strength is just a function of A, high filling strength, B, it's only 7 years old into a butt. Now, the larger the cask, the longer they take them to mature. So we know the evaporation, the angel share will be less and slower, certainly over only just 7 years. But that's a very developed 7 years. And this is, I mean, I could go off on a massive tangent right now about how age statements are coming down. 15 years ago, it'd be unheard of to sell a 7-year-old sherried malt. You'd put it in, keep it in the bank for 10 to 12 years. Certainly when it's second fill. I mean, the theory was you might be able to get a first fill out at 8 to 10 years old. But for second fill, you'd be waiting at least 12 to 15. So this has really come along in leaps and bounds.
Would you say a lot of that has come down to wood policy, wood management? And
undoubtedly, yeah.
I've got one fan, Paul Field. You're my only fan. It's better to have one than none, but there you go. And yeah, drying ashen funk on the cheese. I agree with that. Yes. Finally home. Look, I know we have some members, of course, who are tuning in tonight from Perth, who it may be 2 or 3 hours earlier. But we'll look at how we can do that. But you can always tune in anytime you like. Corbin, I got your message. I will reply. Sorry. And yes, pears, raspberry, licorice, but Nutella. Okay, fair enough.
Hey, that licorice is a good call. Yeah, actually, I'm going to go one further and say it's actually licorice all sorts, because I'm getting the sweetness and the sugary confectionery that's in the layers in between.
Not Darrell Lee.
No, I'm going to go with Roundtree on this occasion.
Roundtree. I need to put the time zone on the email. Thank you for the feedback. We will. And Rob Akers says, yeah, I should just get on board with DST already.
Rob, you stirrer.
Yes, it is AEDT here now, not Okay.
Matt, there are a couple of questions there that from some members requesting why their name doesn't show up on Facebook user. That's a Restream login issue, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you just have to allow Restream to see your Facebook account. We used to be on StreamYard, so probably some of you authorized StreamYard in the past. We're not using StreamYard at the moment. We're using Restream for reasons I won't go into, but technically this is a better platform. So best to just allow Restream to see your Facebook name, or you allow it access to see your name or something like that. I think if you just go to Restream, or Restream on Facebook will be able to do that. Joel says, my wife and I are in Perth. Timing is fine. We just ended up having whiskey and cheese for breakfast. I can't think of something better to start the day.
Hey, I've just seen a comment pop up, and it's Rory, Mr. Dexter in Queensland. Good to see you, mate. Fantastic to have you join in. We should catch up for a dram sometime when we're allowed to travel again.
Cheese noses, rubber gloves. Okay. I'm going to hit the cheese again.
That is, in all seriousness, Matt, that is one of the better distillery 30s I've had in a long time. Either independent or official bottling from the distillery.
That is marvelous stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, wow. That actually restores my faith a little bit.
Andrew, you are a skeptic of distillery 30.
Look, I've had more misses than hits. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, but this particular cask restores your faith a bit. You're saying?
But that's in recent times. You got to remember, everyone comes from a different whiskey journey and the baggage they bring with them. And I got into distillery 30 in the late 90s when there were no misses. Everything was a hit. And then for a whole stack of reasons, things changed a little bit over the years. So this is actually taking me back to the faith I had in the distillery in the late 90s when it was just such a highly regarded, esteemed distillery that could do no wrong.
Okay, that is a fascinating pairing. That's a lot of fun. It's very hard to pair a cheese with a whiskey of that kind of proof.
Morsey, you can leave the chat right now, mate, after that comment.
Oh, absolutely laid a burn there. Okay, well, we'll have to leave that there. Kristen says, do you do a before/after on the stock/inventory after these tastings/pairing events?
Yeah, well, we used to. Now that Matt's in Melbourne, we don't need to worry about the warehouse being raided overnight. So,
oh, it still gets raided. Have decoys.
Nice one, Rob.
Yeah. Rob, welcome to the team. Sorry, Alex. Yeah. And this bottle is amazing. Yeah, it really is. That's a cracking good whiskey. I'm going to agree with Andrew on that as well. I'll be honest as well. I've had a bit of a letdown from some of the releases from this distillery, and I'll say out loud, some of the core range releases from this distillery, especially, have been a real sort of disappointment. And I don't know how I won't say that. Look, no, I will say it. Also, not very good value. Like really quite expensive for what is essentially a low age statement. 40%. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'll get on my high horse about it and I'll get all pissed off. All right, done deal. That's a big sherried whiskey. That's good fun. But I think we might pour our next whiskey, which is not a whiskey. It is indeed a rum. Like I mentioned before, we could have finished with a peated whiskey. We thought about it. We tried it. We tried it with a few cheeses. We tried it back and forth. It didn't work. It would have been. We've finished with a peated whiskey. I think Andrew and I have done countless virtuals now, and we finished with a peated whiskey. I think almost on every occasion. Yeah, pretty much every occasion. So to not have a peated whiskey in the lineup is unique. But it just mixes things up a bit. And for those of you who are not rum fans, you might be converted with this next pairing here.
Well, I think the other thing, Matt, is really one of the many things we try and do with our virtual tastings is to showcase our inventory and to showcase what's on Outturn and what's available and what's on the website. And let's be honest, I think a lot of members of the society would probably skip over the rums if we didn't occasionally put the spotlight on them. And I think also in a virtual, it's a great opportunity to bring members' attention to something that they might otherwise not consider. And, certainly, you and I have had maybe 3 or 4 virtuals now where we've put a rum into the lineup, and the feedback has been overwhelmingly amazing and positive about what a fantastic insertion it was and just how well it was received and how well it worked in the lineup. So I would certainly endorse it and suggest that it was the right choice on this occasion.
Actually, a sample of this rum made its way to a colleague of mine who is very much a rum nerd. Let's put it that way. They nerd out about rum much the same way as Andrew and I nerd out about whiskey, like to that sort of level. And he said this R11.11 was possibly one of the best rums he'd had in more than 5 years, like one of the most incredible rums. And I've poured mine into my glass, and all I can smell now is that rum. In fact, I can't. The cheeses have completely been obliterated in front of me. But that's we're going to pair this one tonight with the ODO, which stands for 1 day old. So all of these other cheeses that we've looked at tonight are all between sort of 3 and 12 months of age. And this is one. This is 1 day, not even 1 month, 1 day old. A simple curd cheese that is drained overnight, lightly salted, and then when it's a day old, it's marinated in olive oil, flavored with a bit of garlic, chili, black pepper, and chives. Works well on its own. Works well mixed into pasta. Works well in different capacities.
Mixed into pasta. Wow.
Yeah. And so you can mix.
I haven't had dinner yet. You've just inspired me.
It can make it so. So I'm going to put this one. I'm going to use a cracker for this one. I did surgically remove all my cheese from the crackers before after Andrew's comment, but I'm going purely on cracker this time. We're finishing with the 1 day old because there is like all those flavor aromas part of it. Garlic, chili. Your palate for the more subtle whiskies would sort of drop off a bit after this point. But this is a sort of a wild garlic and chili sort of cheese with a wild, funky, very funky rum. Now, 66.9% on the rum, this one, a Jamaican rum, and 7 years tropically aged.
That's a stunning rum.
Isn't it?
Wow.
Oh.
Matt, I confess I don't know an awful lot about distillery R11. Can you shed any light on that?
It's one of the smaller distilleries in Jamaica, and probably one of the strangest still setups. It's very low reflux still layout. It's a 4-site still layout. I don't know if I have the photo actually queued up. I don't. Sorry.
I agree with Rory's comment there about it. It's a high alcohol Diplomatico Ambassador. It's
but without all the sugar, without all the dosage.
That's it.
Yeah. So without all that added sugar, it is basically like you could call this like a Diplomatico without all that funky sugar added in. So this is very much more on the agricole style.
But it's actually all the more complex and balanced for it. Wow. All right. I've had my rum. Time to move on to the cheese that goes with it.
Try this one as a pairing. I like this audio.
It's thrilling television watching two people chew silently.
We can chew closer to the microphone if you want, but it's probably even less pleasant.
Wow. Okay.
My husband says the nose on this rum reminds him of cod liver oil as a kid. Wow, that's a cool tasting note, actually.
Cod liver oil. I can see that. Yep.
Oh, that is a big rum. Wow. Rory says, I did not look up the code. Was a rum guy before seeing the light. Rory. I mean, you're a Queenslander, Rory. You kind of have to be a rum guy to start with, don't you? Mal, I love this. R11.11, someone wrapped a cola nut in rubber, set it on fire, and assaulting me with it while someone else is trying to put the fire out with some prune juice. That's a cool tasting note.
That's a tasting note.
That is a wild rum. That is serious. Like, that's a second fill bourbon barrel, Jamaican, tropically aged 7-year-old Worthy Park. That's so much fun.
How many bottles of this do we have left, Matt?
Not many.
Well, you've just got -1 because I think I'll grab one of them.
Yeah, Susie sent me a list of how many we have left of each, and I did not print that in time. But it's not many. And I guarantee once people have tasted this, it'll be sort of one of those things like, okay, that's what's going on here. That's an unbelievable rum.
Yeah, wow. Oh, Rob, that's not a tasting note. That's a Friday. What a great comment.
That's quite a Friday. Freedom Day Friday, yes. Cola nuts wrapped in fire and then beaten with prune juice.
You know what? I love the rum. I love the cheese. I'm not sure the match is entirely harmonious.
It's a hard one to pair with. It is a tricky one. But I figured the garlic and the chili wouldn't have matched up with much else.
No, fair call. Fair call. As I say, they're both very nice. They're a bit. For me, the match is dissonant, and that's not a bad thing. If Fran Schura was here, he would be saying it is a match in contrast.
Wow. Someone just joining us now in the tasting with my whiskies and cheeses. You can join in any time. We are on the last pairing, but you can watch this back as soon as this goes off live. I think you can watch it back pretty much straight away on our YouTube page, YouTube channel, which we do encourage you to please like, comment, subscribe, press all those buttons on YouTube, because we always like uploading some things to YouTube as well, outside of our group and outside of everything else. Just always good for members to know about that. And speaking of which, we also have our latest Unfiltered online right now. It's a little bit late, but we got there in the end. It's online. It's the previous month's issue, and the next month's issue will be online very shortly, next week. WS just finished work. There's a great comment here from Sebastian, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Congratulations again on naming 1.244. You officially named a Society 1, which is rather cool. I'm getting a super strong super glue flavor on those. Now, super glue, that glue note, that acetone note, is not uncommon with agricole style rums and Jamaican rums specifically, especially young ones. They get that really, I'm going to say it, lovely acetone note. That gluey note is part of the appeal, rather than just tasting brown sugar, because there's so many rums out there which do just taste like brown sugar. Let's be honest. And we do bottle some rums that are quite sugary as well. I mean, they are like R8s. If you look out for R8s, R9s a little bit, R10s a little bit. They are quite sort of like much more traditional sort of sugary rums, rather than being agricole style like these.
Are we allowed to say brown sugar anymore? The Rolling Stones just said it wasn't right anymore.
Not white sugar. I don't know what the alternative is.
No.
I mean, that song was a mess, so that's no big loss.
Oh, come on.
I knew it.
You're a Beatles guy, aren't you?
I am. Sorry.
That's right. So I'm Beatles, to be frank.
No, don't get me wrong. I mean, Let It Bleed is a great album, but the rest of the catalog can get stuffed. Anyway, so that's our final pairing for tonight. That is the R11.11 with the ODO. Perhaps not the most congruent of pairings, but it's a bit dissonant. But it's kind of fun to finish with something so wild, overproof, and something cheese which is not sort of the kind of normal thing you'd taste in cheese either. That is a wild cheese. That is like I say, black pepper, garlic, chili, and only a day old, and then marinated in oil. It's something rather special there.
And this, sorry, Matt, this was the one that you said stirred into pasta. It was this one, wasn't it?
Not the stirred into pasta, or even this great comment here. You could do this. You could, spread it on toast. Oh, ODO on toast. Try that tomorrow morning, maybe with the simple rums. We need more Beatles references on bottles. Where's the bottle name? Yellow Mellow Custard, Matt. Bring all that Beatles influence. We do need more Beatles bottles. We have had a few Stones bottles, actually. We have had a few casks over the years with very, very subtle Stones references, but maybe we need more Beatles ones without getting sued. That brings us to the end of our official side of the pairings. I'd love to hear in the comments, pop them in the comments even just now, your favorite pairing of the night. I think I know Andrew's.
Yeah, absolutely. No question.
The 112.
Yeah, that was a stunning match in look, the two individual items were stunning in their own right. Put them together, heaven.
I'm gonna echo that. I'm gonna say my favorite pairing was the 112 with the I think it was the George, wasn't it? Yeah. And then I think my favorite whiskey tonight, however, was the 30.118. That took me by surprise.
Yeah, good call.
That was a lovely dram, and it's such a incredible to see a second fill sherry butt that's only 7 years old. It's so so good. So pop it in the comments, guys. I'd love to see what your Paul, mate. That's a whole nother argument, and one that I'm not going to tolerate right now. To be honest, that's not okay.
Was that the Beach Boys comment? I saw that and scrolled on.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry, and John saying my favorite pairing with the cheese and the whiskey. Yes, John. That sounds like quite a few glasses of Pinot there, and took me by surprise. Also, a great bottle name. There you go. Oh, okay, good. This is a good one. 28.52 in the raw milk for me. Awesome. I'm going to have to come back to that one. I really like that 28.52. I know we didn't pair it specifically with the raw milk, but that's up there as my second favorite whiskey of the night, I think.
I have to say that the raw milk cheese was extraordinary, so I can get that. And I've got a little bit left of 28 to give that a go, so I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Great. Bella, good to see you, Bella. Favorite was the 112 pairing, but I thought the 30 whiskey. Brilliant work, mate. It would have been a difficult virtual pairing to execute. It was stressful, but we're here now. We made it to the end and we get to enjoy it with you. That's all that matters. You know what? Whilst we're here, I'm going to just showcase a little bit of what's coming up, if that's okay for everyone. If everyone can see what's on the screen at the moment, let's have a look. Our next outturn, our November massive issue is coming soon. Friday, the 12th of November. No, it is not the first Friday of the month. It's the only outturn each year where we pop it sort of right in the middle of November almost, and it covers your entire summer dramming guide. It's 60 pages. It's 30 casks. There's tastings. There's experiences. There's everything in this issue. Lots to read. And that's coming up 12th of November. So mark your calendars. Do not schedule any meetings that day. Take the day off if you need to for outturn. It's perfectly acceptable. That's a workplace excuse these days. And we actually had Jeremy Young, our artist in residence, design the front cover for outturn this year, which we're really happy with because it doesn't make sense for us to have snow covers and skiing on the front of an Australian outturn in the middle of summer. And so Jeremy's drawn this artwork with the dingo and the kangaroo enjoying a dram on the beach with some society bottles surrounding them. And that's what it's all about this summer. There's the front cover in its full entirety. We're very happy with where we've ended up with this, and lots of contributions from so many people. Too many to name right now, but we'll do a full wrap on this coming up soon.
It is a great read. There's a fantastic selection of articles covering a whole stack of interesting stuff. It'll keep you amused right up to Christmas, that one.
Dingo looks like ScoMo. Oh dear. So it is a good read. It's a cracking good read. 60 pages to read through. It's a proper magazine. We've even had to go to perfect binding for those who like nerd out about publishing. That's quite a big issue. There's our two malt of the month and premium malt of the month. Not something we normally get away with, but one from each category. Something light and delicate on the right there with the crackers and breeze. That's definitely a nice summary kind of dram there, which is 35.292 and 4.266, which we've seen on the Dark Lord of Stromness, our premium malt of the month, a 20-year-old Orkney malt. That one, that's going to be a cracker as well. Next virtual tasting is coming though. Let me be honest. The next virtual tasting is the outturn previews, which are in about 2 weeks. Both outturn preview nights have completely sold out. So sorry if you missed out on either of those, but they were very, very popular, of course. After that, the next official virtual tasting is the Ultimate Vaults collection is back. Join us on Friday, the 3rd of December. Andrew and I are going to take us through what is precisely $6,943 worth of whiskey in one sitting. That's the amount. If you bought all 5 bottles in one hit, that's how much it costs. So it's a big pack, and it's 5 very, very rare single casks the last virtual vaults we did, Andrew. It was I can safely say it was extremely well received back in March or so.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was a real treat. I remember it well, and can't wait to do it again.
We're so pumped to host this one again. We're taking it all the way back to the vaults again, picking out 5 of our oldest and rarest releases to share with you at the beginning of December. So that'll be in the outturn, of course, that one. And then we go to, I want to go through quickly to some of the events coming up, because we can do in-person events back again, which in so many places, which is exciting. So there's Bar Helvetica, because Perth is coming back on the 25th of November. Most of these events, if not already up on our website, will be up by next week, or will be up on Monday. So there is the festive flavor party in Perth coming up on the 25th of November. Then we have, of course, the Melbourne train tour. We are taking up an entire 5 carriages and taking a train tour around the countryside for our Christmas party around country Victoria, and that's on the 27th of November.
That is awesome, by the way. That is so good.
That's going to be great. That's going to be so much fun. Why not? Sydney Festive Steps are back. Everyone loves the steps. Everyone loves steps. Festive Steps are back, of course, in Sydney on the 4th of December, Saturday, 4th of December for an afternoon session.
That's correct. We'll be back at our favourite Royal Automobile Club up in the Macquarie Room, and all your favourite ambassadors will be back standing behind the table and willing to pour.
Absolutely. If you've not done a steps before, you're in for a real treat. If you have, you know what it's all about. The fraternity club is back in Wollongong. Wollongong members know how to party. Let's put it this way. I relish every opportunity to host a Wollongong tasting because they absolutely know how to drink whiskey. Let's put it that way. 19th of November, the Gong Festive Whiskey Dinner in the fraternity club in Fairy Meadow. Adelaide, 7 Stars Hotel on the 19th of November, same night as Wollongong. The fun festive finale with Jenny and Alan Forrest hosting. Brisbane secret partner bar launch. That's what that photo is. Has sold out. I'm sorry. That went on sale yesterday. Sold out in a flash. But the festive whiskey dinner back at the Brisbane Club to see the year out on the 4th of December is going on sale next week. So keep an eye out for that. And Rory, we heard from you. We know we'll save your seat. Don't worry. And then Lonnie Would Love over in Tassie has sold out. That's at the Star Theatre in Launceston. That sold out a few days ago. But of course, the next one for Tassie will be the Christmas in the Park, which will be back on the Saturday, the 11th of December, which sort of rounds out a year of events. If you live in Canberra, keep an eye out for our website. Not quite online just yet, but we're working on it in the meantime. And if you are in Brisbane, come see us at the Wee Whiskey Festival coming up on the Friday, the 13th of November. We'll be pouring some wares, and we have a members-only pour under the table. If you are a member of the society, come say hello. We'd love to see you there. That rounds out our whiskey and cheese night. Andrew, thank you so much for doing this with us and for everything, of course, always. And thank you all our members and for coming along for this journey of whiskey and cheese tonight. This and rum. I'm going to say whiskey and cheese, but a little bit of rum at the end. And really appreciate you all coming along for the ride.
Matt, well done. Fantastic night. Pleasure as always. Great set of pairings. Thank you for putting it together for our members and for the chance to have a pretty tasty experience with you on a Friday night.
Not bad at all. Well, I've got some cheeses and some whiskeys to finish off, so I'm going to leave you all be. I really appreciate you coming along for this ride, and like I said, and experiencing some whiskey and cheeses. It's so good that it's came together.
I don't know if your household is anything like mine, but I've got family, wife, and kids just circling behind the camera here, getting ready to pounce on what I've left behind here. So yeah,
you know, yeah,
we'll turn the camera off in a moment. It's about to get ugly.
And some heaps of comments coming through. Way too many to jump on right now. But lots of thanks coming through. And, of course, the absurd comment to finish with, can we have a whiskey and pork product pairing night? Rob, you like to throw a spanner in the works, and I'm going to preemptively say no. So there we go. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you all for our virtuals coming up of Outturn previews, the 3rd and 5th coming up for Outturn preview nights, and, of course, some previews next week as well. Bon voyage. I'll see you all soon.
Cheerio, folks. Bye for now.